Hello, everyone. Okay, it's been a minute. Let me see. Yes, invite. There we go. Let's see. We'll just wait a bit. While we're waiting on Paris to join, I want to preface this video with when we have triggers, they're more like clues to our story and what's happening in our life and in our world. And when we look at things from an objective view and we remove the emotional charged reactions to the information, then we can gain a much more well-rounded perception of what's going on in our lives and in the world. So as we're going through this information, because we're saying all the things, and it's for everyone's benefit because this has changed our life exponentially and many other people that we know, their lives as well. And life does not have to be this tragic experience that a lot of people are dealing with right now. Oh, there he is. I sent you an invite, Paris. Did you get it? So let me know, just message if you didn't get the invite and I'll resend it. Um, so as we're going through this information, take some deep breaths and really just listen to the information, and the experiences and the stories to help you have a more bird's eye view of things that are happening and our emotional reaction to it and why we're emotionally reacting to it is what I would ask myself as I learned how what's happening in my life and in my story. And I saw the bigger picture of how this definitely could be affecting a lot of other people. It has helped many people I know exponentially. And so if anything we're discussing triggers you, make a note of it. Ask yourself why. And we're happy to share our experiences and our knowledge that has helped us to gain more control of our emotions, which is our creative power to create our world and our lives and our outcomes. So, so as we're talking, as we're sharing, please keep that in mind and happy to answer questions as well. We're the question coaches. We love questions and we gain better understanding and insight and knowledge and perspective that in my experience has shifted everything for me, listening to others' perspectives and stories and really observing them as opposed to waiting to respond or immediately dismissing it because it wasn't what was familiar to me. So, and familiar for those that, well, we'll get into that. We'll share what's happening with that and why we tend to have emotional reactions and triggers and why we have these perceptions and so many different ones and that we tend to not look outside of because that's what we were taught to do. So, okay, Paris, let me try and invite you again. See, maybe because you weren't on before. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining. Hi, Simon. Yay. There you
Hi,
are. Hi, how are you?
I'm well, and you?
I'm ineffable. I'm ineffable. It's a word that basically the the definition is there are no words to describe the feeling. And
Okay,
so,
I
yeah.
did ask you that. Okay.
Yeah. So, wow. Lots has happened since we last spoke, huh?
Yes, a
Been a
lot has
minute.
happened, taken place. Can you
And
hear me pretty well? Because I got my earphone in,
yes,
so I can
yes,
hear
I
you.
can hear
Okay,
you.
because I'm
Yeah.
outside.
Yeah, and let me
Okay,
know
good.
if you can't hear me or anything. So, hi, thank you so much for joining.
Thanks
So,
for inviting me.
oh yeah, and so I was prefacing before before I had you join, I was prefacing this with preparing people for the information we're going to share, so
Uh-huh.
that if they have any kind of emotional reaction to it or response to it, they can pause, breathe, see where it's coming from, why they're having that feeling and emotion. And so as you share your story, I just wanted them to have that in mind so that people can look at things at a more objective view and not be triggered by the information and
Right. On the
really hear
message.
where we're coming from,
Right.
which is a genuine place. We're doing this because we want to help other people to have better lives and outcomes and change for the better, especially amidst everything that's been happening. And this documentary is coming at a perfect time. I am so
Yeah,
excited.
yeah, and then you also get to look at other people's perspective on life other than
Exactly.
your own. Because
Exactly.
sometimes, we grow up in neighborhoods and areas that, cater to us. And so we never get to see like the real outside, what goes on in the whole city or the whole state or country. It's just that we're in our environment, we're in our box and we're comfortable in our box, you know.
Exactly. And those are the things I have that in my presentation actually. I help people see how our core beliefs, the way we were taught as kids to accept what our parents and authority figures tell us is real and true.
Hmm.
And of course, what other point of reference do we have? And so how that actually turns into our core beliefs and with the way our reticular activating system works, which is what our focus is on, that tends to cause us to limit our perception and our perspective and allow outside information to come in. And so
Yeah.
that's where, yeah, it's helping people when we slow down, when we listen and not listen to respond what we want to say, listen to really what they're saying and what knowledge, because we're always learning. Everybody's a teacher. I've come to see,
Yeah.
and everything is a teacher. And so yeah, let it share with us your story is I'm so excited and your story is so phenomenal and it really just blends in with a lot of what's happening right now too. So you have what social media is doing to people, you have what our childhood beliefs and what we've been told has impacted us and allowed it and caused us to just accept certain beliefs and feelings and worldviews that is it true? Is it really
Yeah,
true? Is
and
it
a lot
fact?
of yeah, for the majority part, we grow up like and what we learn the most from is in our home, is in school, is in churches, or in our neighborhood, right? So, our parents or their parents didn't have the technology that we have today that we can venture out, and be on our phone, never have to leave the home for real and find out information. So a lot of the information that they got was handed down to them from another generation that didn't have as much technology or books or researches or resources as they did. So
Exactly.
their truth is really their truth based on where they got the information from.
Right. Which is actually what? More like a perception, right? It's not
Exactly.
necessarily the truth.
Right.
It's a perspective. And then think about it. What were their parents taught? What were how far back does that go with
Right.
being
Right.
told what's true and real for us? And what is it really actually true?
Yeah,
Fact.
and we don't have an excuse today to be ignorant,
Yeah,
right? Because the
exactly.
technology, that we have today, like we can really go beyond the surface into
Yes,
seeing things and to doing our own research and to doing our own homework and our own studies to find out if it's fact or fiction, you know?
exactly. And
Yeah,
we have such an awesome tool. We can use it as a tool and not an escape, and really see, like you said, so many other perspectives and knowledge. And like, it's, you think of free will, we're all we created with free will. We choose our experiences and learn the lessons, or don't.
yeah,
What the thing is, are we making conscious decisions, or are they unconscious patterns that were set into motion as children from those beliefs and from what we were told and taught, you know, and are we willing to look and widen our perception and our scope to see others' points of view and just take it into consideration? You don't have to agree with it. It's just
right, exactly,
listening to another perspective, because you learn a lot about yourself and others when you do that. So yeah.
exactly.
So
Yeah, I
take
agree. But some people just be so comfortable in their surroundings that they don't want to go
totally.
outside of that because it'll make them uncomfortable at the information that they may receive. And once you receive it,
Yes,
the information, then act like you can't unlearn it anymore, right? So
exactly.
yeah,
That's why I love Joe Dispenza, because he really drives that point home with how we're in these situations, like say our life is just not going well. The concept of doing something different is scary and unknown because it's
yeah,
unfamiliar. And he talks about how our bodies, our physical bodies, will actually be affected. Like, we will feel the anxiousness is likely coming from, in the not wanting to face certain things, certain truths about ourselves that are uncomfortable because it's unfamiliar. And what have we grown up with? Being shamed, being
yeah,
made to feel guilty, things like that. So it makes it scary because we're worried about what other people's perception of us is going to be if we admit, I fucked up,
yeah,
I made some
yeah,
stupid choices. And
yeah.
really, I've come to just be like, yep, I was really stupid. I
Yeah,
did some really
like
stupid shit.
a lot of times, right? People will have the information, but choose not to put it out because they don't want. Like, for instance, my mother, right? When I was a child, she had me believe that Santa Claus really existed, right? And as I
Classic
got
example.
older, yeah, and as I got older and realized that Santa Claus was a fairy tale, or the what's the Easter Bunny was a fairy tale, but as I got older, I still installed them same lies into my children. I still
Right.
told them when they was younger, Santa Claus coming down the chimney, and we didn't even have a
Right.
chimney, right? And so I'm still pushing the same lies, but I know the truth, right?
Right.
So yeah, it's just there's some things that we just don't want to let go of.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And we justify it. We make
Oh yeah.
excuses for it. And
Yeah.
it's not, it's like, can we just call it a celebration? Can we just say, hey,
Yeah.
we want to
Yeah.
get together with our family, and not assign this deceit? I mean, that starts at such a young age, and it seems so innocent. Yet that's
Yeah.
how it starts.
Yeah.
It's a
And
subtle.
I was taught that excuses are tools of incompetence, built by monuments of nothingness, and those who partake in them seldom ever partake in anything else. So if I'm gonna keep making excuses, then I'm always making an excuse. instead of dealing with the actual fact. Then we can go along, we can move along instead of me growing old in the same position and space that I'm in. Right? I've always considered myself as a great student. Right? Because I'm always
Totally.
willing to learn. I'm always willing to investigate. And when you have to teach, then you have to act like you know something.
I
Right?
love
And you
that.
have to put yourself, I don't want to always know something. I want to
Thank
learn.
you.
That's what
Exactly.
life is all about for me.
Totally.
It's the learning process. It's the learning. So I always consider myself like a student of life. You know, a student, anything I go in with an open mind. Some things I
Everyone's a
may not,
teacher.
yes, and some things I may not agree on, but I was open with it to get an understanding from somebody else or somebody else's perspective, right? And then when I make my own decision up as I leave, but when I'm there, I'm gonna give them the utmost respect and the utmost attention to try to, see what they're trying to say
Yes. And
or get that point across.
yeah, that's huge. And also, why do we feel the need to force someone to have our perspective or belief or perception of
Arrogance,
something?
arrogance, arrogance
Yeah,
and self-centeredness. That's what that is.
yeah, and
That's
it's
exactly what it
taught.
is.
It's taught
Yes.
to us, and there was so much I was doing, and it was interesting. At a young age, things felt off from the gate, out the gate. It was like, what the fuck is this? Because I was seeing so much hypocrisy and just suffering, and I was suffering and going through it. It was just like, and then going to church, and told, oh, well, this
Yeah.
is what's happening. And it's like, yeah, but if I'm doing all the right things, so why is my life still so such a struggle? When I'm
Yeah.
doing what I'm told the right thing to do is. And yeah, and so it's like, you don't have to accept. Why are we trying to force other people to do anything? It's like,
Yeah.
like
Yeah. And that's
I'm just
just
living
like,
my life.
yeah. And that's the same thing go when I have gotten enlightened or I have learned something different, right? I don't try to force what I've learned on other people because it's a process, just like school. I can't expect people to be where I'm at on the first or second time that they've met me,
Yeah,
right? So, and it's also not my responsibility to enlighten anyone. It's my responsibility to take the message. It's their own
exactly.
responsibility to enlighten themselves.
Exactly.
I can't do all that now. I can't put you in the
I
game and
got
run the
shit to
ball
do.
for you. And yeah, I can't do all that. I can take the message to you, right? And I'm only responsible, right, for the effort and not the outcome. So
Absolutely.
yeah. So a lot of stuff, I don't get into it. And if you receive it, you receive it. If you don't, then fuck it, you don't. You know,
And why do we
I
have to
just
get
have to
pissed
move
off
on.
about it? It's like,
Exactly.
it's just, I was over the weekend. It was so interesting that listening and sharing and observing things from such a viewpoint where there was things I was noticing about a situation. I had a big decision to make, and there was things I was noticing that I was dismissing and and not listening to that feeling that was there of there's something off. And then I literally wrote down, doing the practicing the coaching and the writing it down and meditating, and asked to reveal what it is to me that I'm not seeing, because I'm aware that I have these unconscious patterns that I need to help me see so that I can shift that belief or perspective. And what I realized was that it was a deep, deep pattern of growing up in an environment where I was made to dismiss bad behavior and then just ignore it and allow it and deal with it, as opposed
Yeah.
to actually having the choice of, this doesn't feel right to me, and I'm not going to move forward in this. and and make that choice that a lot of people, and it wasn't an easy decision. It was a lot of time and months and energy put into something that I had to make a choice about letting go of, and it wasn't easy. And so but because I removed the emotional, oh, what am I going to do? And, how am I going to do this? And just observing it and observing the feeling, and why is this in my reality? Why is this attracting into my reality? And it was a deep pattern of allowing the manipulation and others trying to tell me what's true and real for me.
Uh-huh.
And that is what is happening across the board. And that was it was like, wow, I was letting other people tell me what was true and real for my experience.
Yeah.
And my own thoughts that are in my head that are from me and that I need to figure out. And you're trying to tell me what that is for me. It was like, it didn't feel right. And we've been so shut off from feeling. It's like, I was comparing to how I felt based on what other people were feeling, and not realizing, wow, there's a lot to this feeling, and it's amazing. So
yeah, and people try to control and manipulate other people, right, by getting into their mind. Because if I can get you to think like I want you to think, then I can control your body, right?
And I can keep my excuses.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So when I got your mind and I'm getting you to think like I want you to think, do what I want you to do, act like I want you to do, right? That's not to help you. That's to keep me afloat. That's to keep my ego pumped up. So I can always look at you and be like, well, that's my student, or this, that, or she this, or he that, right? And the thing is, that's when you become robotic. Like, well, you're not even thinking for yourself. You're not even acting on yourself. You're not even feeling how you feel because of how somebody else may interpret your feelings or your thinking. And then you have to stay in this box exactly where they want you at. And you will never grow. Like I tell Mark England, and that's my dude, right?
Right.
I tell him there should be 11th commandment. Thou should use thy own damn common sense, right?
Yes,
it should be a sin.
You saying that.
It should be a sin not to use your own damn common sense.
And
right?
well, that is a really actually interesting point, because when we stop and contemplate where our beliefs, our thoughts, our feelings, how we see the worldview, our lives, our environment, as well as globally, when we contemplate where those thoughts, beliefs, feelings are coming from, it was an unconscious pattern of what I was taught was real and true. And anything that challenged that, I would, no, that's not right. No, that's not good. No, that's not true. And just immediately react and justify whatever it was that was challenging that belief and feeling. And yet on the same token, I was still willing to, I was drawn to things, and I was looking at other things, and for me, it was experiencing like martial arts and the energy and certain phenomenon that I just won't even get into, that was like, whoa, I wasn't taught any of this, yet I experienced that. So it wasn't like anybody could tell me that wasn't true or real for me, because I experienced it.
Yeah.
And that's what happened with this coaching with Mark. And yeah, he's the dude.
Yeah, without a doubt. And like a lot of people, I mean to cut you off.
No,
but
you're fine.
A lot of people will go to the grave believing in a lie and will fight you, kill you, maim you, destroy you, all in a lie, because what was installed in them was a lie, right? And they never got to do that research on it. And a prime example is when the United States go to war. right? When they go to war and they go over to another country, or when any country go to war and they invade another country, then they categorize the people over there as or give them a certain name so that you can not dehumanize them when you destroy them and kill them because they don't speak like you, because they don't practice religion like you, or because they have something that you want, right? In reality, so you make this base, what I would call mass miscommunication,
Huge.
right?
That's huge.
And
Yep.
get all these people in an uproar to thinking that these people are your enemy, right? So you go over there in the name of God, right? Because you got to put that in there. You have to put that in there.
Got to
That's
bring
get people
Jesus
in the
in with a
uproar.
bar of soap,
Oh,
like a
oh
bar of
yes,
soap.
oh yes.
Clean that
And
shit up.
you put all that together, and you get these people minds to thinking that they're fighting for the greater good, when actually they're fighting for
Oof.
a certain percentage to stay in power and to be in power, and they never know why they're killing each other, why they're dying for. Right? It's
Yes.
all, yeah,
Because we
and
were
that goes
taught
on.
not to challenge that
That's right.
authority.
You know why? Because they don't want you to think. Don't think. Just go on your
Don't
command.
question. Don't
Just do
ask
your job.
questions. Yep.
Just do your job. Because
Yep.
if you ask questions, then you're going against the status quo, right? You're
Yep.
going against protocol, and they don't want you to think.
Yeah,
They
because
don't
then they would
ever
lose
want
their
you to think.
power. If we,
If you think they will lose their power, exactly right.
yep. And when we realize how powerful we actually are over our world and outcomes and choices and what have you, when we let go of that stuff, stop focusing on it, giving it energy, feeding it, and start
Mm-hmm.
focusing on what do we want? What do we want to create in our world? We are creators of our world, whether we want to believe that or
Yes.
not.
Oh
Your
yeah.
reality is showing you that.
Oh
And
yeah.
do you want to continue down this path, or do you want to see real change? Because real
Mm-hmm.
change is going to require different choices. And not, if we are making choices in the insane way that we've been doing it out of automatic, unconscious patterns, there's not going to be a change. And then we turn around and complain about the situation in our life and what's happening in the world and what have you. Well, look what we can do individually. Look what
Yeah.
shifting ourselves, power versus force. Dr. David Hawkins did a study. He measured the emotional frequencies of each of our emotions. And guess what? You're in a fear state, you're in a low vibrational state. What do you think you're going to attract? They are keeping us in a stressed and fear state because then we are easier to control and manipulate. And then we
Oh
make
yeah.
decisions out of reactions as opposed to actually contemplating them and seeing what feels right to us. And then we feel rushed and in a hurry, and they just keep us all in our head, and we're
Yeah.
disconnected from here, out of
Yeah.
our
I
heart.
I, I agree. Um, the of the big billion, maybe $1 trillion industry in ignorance.
Boom.
Get paid for
Boom.
people being ignorant, right? And as long as I can keep you ignorant, then I can still continue to close, to tell you where you can go, what you can do, who's your enemy. That's why I don't get into politics
Me
anymore.
either.
Like one
Me
time
either.
I was a big politician. Became, I was not a big politician, but I was wrapped up into politics. And then, it was like when I was looking at it these last couple of years, it just had me like feeling negative all the time. And I'm mad at people who I've never even met, who I've never even seen, who I don't even know, right? And then
Right.
I'm getting a few sound bites here and I'm getting a few sound bites there, and I'm basing a judgment off of the sound bites that I hear, right? So I got out of politics, because it's still trying to keep us divided. You know,
Totally.
it's still one team against another, right? And who can win out and who gonna get, because it's never about the politicians for real. It's always about the people that's behind the politicians, that the politicians are only the face pushing their policies.
Yep.
Right. So it's
Puppet.
never really about the politicians.
Yep.
So
Totally.
yeah.
Exactly. And then same with religion, same
Yeah,
with
oh,
the
yeah, yeah.
racism, same with, look at how much there is in the world that causes division. And for
Yeah.
what? And for what? Why can't we just create our world, and what we can learn to do is, oh, you don't want to be part of this community or whatever. Cool. Be well on your journey. Why are we
Yeah.
getting pissed off and angry and whatever?
And you know, a
The
lot of
emotion.
times, well, not a lot of times, but yeah, a lot of times when I sit down and I really don't base my opinion or broadly give it that often. But when I sit down and I talk about race relations, say with a group of white people, right? I come out feeling like, or they have me leaving feeling like I'm a bigotry or I'm a racist, or, and I'm not, like, no, and I tell them that it's because you don't see what I see. You don't live in my community. You don't live in my neighborhood. You haven't gone to the schools that I went to, the institutions that I've been a part of, and notice for sure hand that racism still exists in America, right? And I say all you gotta do is really look at the housing discrimination, the schooling, like the schooling that giving the most funding, and what school is not giving the most funding. All you have to do is take a look at the laws that has been in effect, the prison population, is so much things that like go in, like police brutality. Why is my neighborhood being policed the hardest with the most police in it, but we still have the most crime rate? How, when every block has a fucking police on it somewhere,
Well, the white people
and
have the most sociopaths and serial killers, so it's like,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
that's
but
like, who are we to judge?
we, yeah, yeah, right. And it's just like, even in the housing discrimination, even in the public or funding or the grants and all that, there's always you know how when they do a commercial and they had a big commercial, but at the bottom of it, they have warning signs of will give ulcers, cancer, and they say that real fast. You don't see the fine print,
Right.
and it's the fine print that gets you. It's the fine,
Totally.
yeah,
On so
yes,
many levels.
oh yeah, you know,
Yep.
like I was just I was talking to this guy about like what happened to hip hop or the rap music. Like what happened, we was talking about, like at one time, it was positive and it was fun, and all of a
Yeah.
sudden, all this gangster rap came in, and all these like explicit lyrics come out now. Like at one time, my mother used to tell me that when she watched television, that if Elvis Presley or James Brown or anybody else came on of that nature that did a lot of dancing, they would only show them from the waist up,
Mm-hmm.
right? But now you can get on television, you get on the radio, and you can hear, like, you be like, I didn't even know they could say that on here. I didn't know they could look
Yeah.
like that, and
Wow.
and and
Yep.
they're just pushing agendas and agendas. But why rap music? Why? I mean, of all the genres of music that there are, why rap music? Yeah, but and people, right, don't understand that, Time Warner, Viacom, and Paramount are the most biggest um investors in private prisons, and
Hmm.
they control the music industry,
Yep.
the TV industry, the magazine industry, the news industry, and
Thank you.
Yes. And so what they would do, they get, like I said, at one time, right, you had groups like, you might not, this might be a little too old for you, but I'm going back.
You'd be
You had
surprised.
groups like KRS-One, right? Poor Righteous Teacher, let me see who had Brand Nubians and etc. They was promoting like intelligence, like go to school, do, get your education. And
Right.
then they had groups like TV shows like the Cosby Show, right?
Yeah.
And the spinoff from the Cosby Show was a different world. It portrayed black youth in college or with a mother and father in the house, right? And during that time, that was the biggest boom in where young black youth started going back to college. I mean, that was the biggest boom.
Yeah.
Then in 1991, right, all of a sudden, you had this flip in music. And that's when the private prison industries came about, right? So when the biggest the 1991 was when you had all these gangster rap, and then you got all this other stuff with men dressing as women, and they're putting it on TV, and I'm whatever your sexual preferences is, that's your business. But you said stuff isn't personal anymore. That's your personal
Right.
business. I don't want to be a part of that. I don't want to be.
Right.
That's not entertainment to me, right? But if I say
Exactly.
something about it, then I'm homo this or this or that,
Right.
or
Exactly.
and I'm like, no, I just don't choose to believe like that, and I don't think it should be in my house or how I have a
Yeah.
right to choose to raise my
Yes.
kids how I choose to raise them, right?
Exactly.
So what I was saying, they started promoting this music, right? That they didn't want anymore, like Enlightened. They didn't even want any more like fun hip hop, like say like let me see, Will Smith or
Yes. I
or
used to love
Kid
it.
and Play, right? They
Yes.
was fun. They don't want, so they promoted. If you didn't have set agenda, then your record won't get promoted, and it was all
Yes.
criminal behavior,
Exactly.
and it was all criminal behavior. But the thing is, since Time Warner, Viacom, and Paramount are the second largest holders in private prisons, right? They control who say the music, right? And then they control the demographics of the music, like the people.
I
So
mean,
I can pay you $1 million, right? And in these private prisons, that 90% of them it has to be populated, right? 90% of them has to be populated to get these fundings
get
and
the
these
funding.
grants.
Yep.
Yeah. So what I do, I put a young cat on that all he sees is diamond and glitz and gold and cars, and has no mentality of how to invest his money or do anything about, with his money. And all he promoting is sexual explicit lyrics and violence and all that. So I pay him $1 million. I'm gonna get all that back in the house. He gonna end up on me in the house after he have to go on tour and all that,
Right.
and I'm paying for his jewelry. But guess what? I get back. I get his young consumers too to stay in my prisons, right? So
Exactly.
I'm
Yep.
using the artist as a tool. I'm using the music as a bait, and I'm using his young consumers as my prey. So I'm winning all the way fucking around. I'm winning all the way around.
And how much of that is happening across the board in all of it, in politics and
Yeah,
in government and in medical and in business and in, I mean, you name it, that's what's happening at the core.
yeah, and it's crazy because in 1970, right? Well, yeah, in 1970, United States had 500 prisons. Today, we have over 1,700 prisons.
Wow. And
Dude,
then and even on this side, like you were talking about music, a lot of people are unaware that that has a huge impact on our subconscious, and that they actually
Of
even
course.
play frequencies at a certain hertz. I have friends in the music industry, and they play music at a certain frequency, at a certain hertz, to actually influence your emotions. And
Of
again,
course.
what's our power? Our focus, our emotional state. So what are they targeting? And then on the side of, white people, if you want to say that, you have the heavy metal getting kids
Yeah.
angry and doing the same kind of thing in a similar way. And you get that all that anger generated, we're like batteries for them. Our
Yeah. And
emotions are
and
feeding
and
that
it
battery.
and the thing is, like heavy metal and all that is nowhere as huge as hip hop. It's
No,
no like
true.
this.
No,
This
that's
is a
true.
world. That's a
It's
certain
just showing how
second
many
law.
angles they're coming from.
Yeah. Yeah, and the thing is, like when you study and you know a people, right? And I'm a black man, and music is my culture, right? It didn't just start here. If you go all the way back to Kemet or Africa or whatever, music has always been our culture. It always been a vibe, a frequency with us that keeps us connected with the universe, right? But when you can put a evil spirit into that, right? And take out the godliness or the universityness and just keep it evil, then that's what people will flock to, and that's what they will flourish, and that's what is the rhythm,
Yes.
right? Like the universe is in rhythm,
The
right?
universe is
Everything
sound.
is
Yeah,
aligned in
exactly.
rhythm. Everything is aligned in rhythm, right? So when we're out of line with the universe, then that's when chaos and confusion seeps in and can manipulate our thoughts, our life patterns and stuff like that. But first, you got to do your homework to
Yep.
know what you're dealing with,
Yep.
right?
And
So,
that is where a lot of people, I sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but a lot of people are kept so stressed, so distracted, so overwhelmed that people won't take the time and energy. Some people won't take the time and energy to look beyond what their core beliefs and what they've been told and taught are, to even, so it's like, that's why we're here encouraging you. You don't have to take our word for it. We're happy to share where we got our information, what have you. It's just being open-minded enough to look at that outside perspective of what is possibly happening, and
yeah, a lot of
widen
people
that
don't
view of
want
it.
to do that.
Right.
A lot of people don't want to
And
do
that
that
just
because
shows
it's
you
too
where
much
they're
for
at.
them.
And you know what? That's their journey.
That's
So,
their journey. Like I say, it's not my job to awaken anybody. Right? It's my job to produce the information. It's
yeah,
their job to do the
right,
awakening. Right?
exactly.
Long as I put forth the effort, I'm not responsible for the outcome. Right?
Yep,
Of
yep.
nobody.
Yeah,
I can only give my effort, my best effort. Then after that, then you got to put the work in.
exactly.
And I'm a firm believer in putting the work in.
Oh my
I don't
gosh,
believe I I don't
it's
believe
easier.
that you can that you can just have faith and shit disappear, and you got to put the work in.
Heck yeah.
That's when you receive. We're as human beings, right? We're all born blessed, but to receive your blessing, you have to put the work in. You have to.
100%. Yes. And
There's
it's
no way
and it's
around it.
actually easier. It's different. It's not to say that it will, there won't be times where it might be uncomfortable, and it's so much easier because you're releasing more and more all the time. You're gaining back that power and energy, that was basically taken when this stuff started to like really constrict us. And when we let go of that and we release it and we're learning and we're looking at other perspectives, I mean, I've had huge realizations and awarenesses because somebody's perspective helped me see something at a deep level that I wouldn't have
Yeah,
seen had I, no, I don't want to listen. No, I don't want to, even the coaching with Mark. I
yeah,
really thought I knew. I really thought I knew. I knew a lot of stuff. I've done a lot of research for a long time, And I stayed open. I kept looking. I kept researching. And I still, other people be like, oh, but this and that. I'm like, eh. Well, Mark, I was feeling amazing too. The positive thinking, all that stuff. Oh,
Uh-huh.
I've dealt with everything. I feel great. And Mark's like, I'm going to coach you and you're going to like what happens. And I was like, okay. I didn't say,
Yeah.
oh, I know. Oh, you don't know. It's okay. I don't have time. Or no, I said yes. And that was the most life-changing thing that's ever happened for me. And if I had
Yeah.
said no to that, I would have been cutting myself off from something that has drastically changed my life for the
Yeah.
better.
And for me, like my spiritual awakening, actually, I've had a few of them, but my most one that I can say like that really altered the way that I think is my last go round in prison, right? And
I
I
was going
kept
to
trying to
ask you
figure out,
about that when that was,
yeah,
that catalyst.
how I kept trying to figure out like how I keep ending up in the same situation, right? Like why? I know I'm not stupid, right?
Right.
Never been even slightly pointed out as being stupid, right? Now I was saying like, am I retarded though? Do I have some type, like what is going on with me? Why do I get all this information and I say I'm gonna do something different. Then when I get out in the world, then I just totally lose my fucking mind and I end up back in prison. Like why am I keep doing this? And then I read this book one time when I was in there, and it was talking about how Martin Luther King was having this conversation with his wife, and she asked him, say, why do you think we as a people keep ending up back in the same situation over and over again? And he said it's because of dumb thoughts and stupid ideas, right? He said everybody has those. He said, but when the dumb thoughts and the stupid ideas keep reoccurring, right, then they become our truth. And when these dumb thoughts and stupid ideas become our truth, then they become our actions, right? And
Absolutely.
then we do these dumb ideas and these dumb thoughts and these dumb truths and these dumb actions, and then we end up right back in the same situation, trying to figure out how
Thousand
the hell we
percent.
got here again,
Yes.
right? So what I had to understand with that when I read that is that I have to change the way I fucking think, right? I have to change that because something is
Ding,
wrong,
ding, ding,
how I've
ding.
been taught or whatever the case may be, how I think, right? If I want my actions to change, I got to change how I think. It's just that simple, right? So I had to go in and I had to, everything that I once thought I knew, I had to, I had to do my homework on it. I had to do research on it because I'm going off of facts now. Because there's a lot of people, as I know and I see, that they get these ideas and they got a vast majority of knowledge inside, but they end back up in penitentiaries, right? And I can remember reading also this thing where it was talking about um it's called teachability index, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
a real word,
Yeah.
right? And
Yep.
it goes on to talk about like how they don't care what type of, if you got the greatest professors in the world, if you've been taught in the greatest institutions in the world, right? Like what are your qualities in the classroom? So
Exactly.
everybody like want to be smart or articulate with their words or seem smart, so they do real good in the classroom, right? And say like they get an 8 in the classroom, but they got another part of that they study the most on is what do you do with the information once you attain the information, right?
Thank
Like
you.
outside,
Thank
right? What
you.
do you do? What are you doing with it? Now that's the
Yes.
action part, right? That's the action. Everybody don't want to do the action
Literally a
part,
universal law of
right?
action, by the way, everybody.
Right. So say they give you an 8 in the classroom, but out in the action part when the work come in, say you get a 4, right? So from 1 to 100, this is how they grade you, right? From 1 to 100, they multiply the 8 times the 4, right? So what's that? 32.
Mm-hmm.
So you're a 32% student because of your actions are, they really see your progress on your actions and not your classroom,
And
right?
what is wisdom but knowledge applied?
Yeah.
It's
So
applying that knowledge.
what I understood with that was that I had to put just as much action behind what I say or what I know than what I do like in the classroom. I got to put just as much work in. All right. And then I
Exactly.
will be able to see like some better results.
Yep.
So, I had to come to grips with that and it was more about my actions than my words.
Yeah, exactly. And our words and thoughts are shaping our perception, and then our perception is how we're going to emotionally respond to the information. So,
Yeah.
what perception are we being shown on the news? And how much of that perception, it's like a pinprick of what's going on a global level. But yet
Like a
they're
who?
keep that it's like the information that the news and the media put out there
Oh, okay.
is such a
Uh-huh.
pinprick of what's actually happening in the world on a global level, yet that's where they want your focus. And what is on the
Yeah.
news? Is it anything good? Is it anything, uniting or positive? No, it's fear based, it's negative, it's
No.
divisive.
Yeah. Because the same people that control the news media control all the music industry. They control the
The
movie
movies,
industry.
yep,
They
yep,
control the news.
politics, I mean,
So
you
all
name
they're
it.
trying to do, yeah. So all they're trying to do is promote their policies. And if what you're saying don't go in with their policies is, then that part of the news ain't gonna be shown.
Yep,
Right, that part, or it's gonna be sound bites. It's gonna be
yep,
sound bites, and you're gonna only still hear what somebody who has sitting behind the counter or sitting behind the desk or doing this wants you to hear.
yep,
So you go around like you got attitudes with people you don't know. You ready to kill people you don't know. And you like now you pick a side. Right. You pick a side. You either gonna be this
exactly.
side, right? And then, like I said, what they do, they would use God in it, right? And have you believe that you're fighting for the good of God, and these people
Exactly.
are your enemies, and they're fighting against God, and you gotta be the one that go in and save the world from these enemies,
Right,
right? When
right.
they're not even your
Yeah.
enemies.
And
How they
looking
are
to
your
the
enemies?
external, they get it that all of that gets us to look to the external for answers when we have the answers
Yeah,
within us. And it's a matter of getting out of our heads, get connected back to our hearts again. And it's by really connecting and communicating with people in a genuine, authentic way to where we can have a conversation without there being this emotional charge, which is how they're feeding off of us, by the way.
yeah, and
And
and that's the thing. People they go into things with emotions,
yes,
right?
and they let them
And when
rule them, which is our
oh
power.
yeah, oh
So they're
yeah,
controlling our power, actually, not us.
yeah,
And when we recognize these patterns and these things that are happening, and then we start to get charge of our emotions, then we hold the power to change things, to create true change in the world, in our lives, in ourselves.
yeah. You know what? To me, I think is a huge wide politics and world views and um different entities that are supreme in this world have so much chaos and confusion amongst it is because they have taken the right of a woman. They have taken that right. And just so recently, women start getting their rights back, right? But if before that, you had men doing like women couldn't pray with men, women couldn't say nothing in church. Only thing they had the right to do was be barefoot and pregnant, and even men could, like, it was laws that they could beat their women, and But once you took the women out of it, even in religion, right? The universe is based off of family, right? So when you got like what it say, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, right? It's supposed to be the Father, the Son, and the Mother.
Yep.
Right. The mother's never supposed to be out of that. The mother
Yep.
is always, because if you understand, like as a mother, right, to that child, right, she's that child protector, she's that child provider,
Nurturer.
right, the
Yep.
nurturer, she's everything to that child. Right. So
Caregiver.
the
Yep.
child, yeah, so the child, when the child say mama, is actually saying God in baby language, right? Because she's that everything to that child. So when you take the mother out, right, and then you have no compassion,
Yep.
you have no empathy, because
Yep.
men, we go
The
off
power,
aggression.
the
Yeah, we go
masculine.
off the physical,
Yep.
So when you take all those things out, you taking like a part of the universe, a part of nature out of that entity.
Threw it
So
out
it's
of
no,
balance on purpose.
yes, it's out of balance.
Yep.
Right. Yeah. So, once, I just don't understand like how, men of great power can be so intimidated by a woman, by a woman's presence.